Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our black dragon fruit review. You can see these are petite fruit, just under 1/3 of a pound, and they are spiny, and the spines do not brush off easily. So, be really careful with this variety. And I've had them up to about a ½ pound last season. They're a little bigger, about the size of a sugar dragon, if you're wondering. This is 8S, which was renamed Sugar Dragon by Linda Nickerson. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is more of an ornamental, and this is absolutely not my favorite fruit. I actually ate some last week, and I still have some spines from that fruit in my thumb. So be really careful when you're cutting them open and consuming them. Now, we did kind of a pre-test last year. We said it was better than we thought, but this year we're going to do a close examination. And I'll tell you what flavors I detect, and if I think this is worthy of growing. Let's see. Little mushy, kind of bland, a little sweetness, crunchy seeds. Ow. And spiny, spiny, spiny. Now the plant material is beautiful. You can see it here. Look at the plant material. Absolutely stunning. As an ornamental variety, or just even the flower, you can see the flower here. They're absolutely gorgeous. So really unique and pretty plant. However, absolutely horrible for commercial production, right? I mean, you can't eat these very easily with the spines, and they're not even very sweet. Ooh, that one's even worse. Ooh. So, to me, it's almost like when I'm forced to eat vegetables, not that these are vegetal, but in the sense that when I was little, my mom would make me eat things I didn't want to. And that's kind of how I feel right now. I'm not going to lie. So let's see how sweet these are. Probably around 15, I don't know, let's see. But just a mushy kind of texture. And the flavor is just not there. It's not bad. I actually probably would prefer this over some of the Ocamponis we grow. I'm actually going to pull some of those out this season, because I really like just a Guatemalan dominant flavor. I mean, they're just hard to beat. So that's why we've been hybridizing with Guatemalans for a few years now, because those are ones I absolutely enjoy. Okay, 12 and 7/10, so even less sweet than I thought. And, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I don't really want to eat this anymore. I'll eat one more. Mushy, slight smash berry, no earthiness, but the texture I don't like. That's what it is. This texture is just, it's mush. Possibly the Hylocereus DNA, and then the Ocamponis as well. Neither of which are my favorite fruit. Okay, I've had enough. So, I am going to pull this plant because I only want to eat the best fruit now, and these are not my favorite fruit. I've given this thing a chance for 3 seasons now, and I'm tired of making excuses for it. Hey, this is Paul, and I'm here with Paco today, and we're going to try out some desert weed. And tell us a little bit about the history of this plant, Paco.
Desert weed is a seedling I grew from Desert King fruit that came into Huntington Beach in 2017. I was lucky enough to come across it. Then later I saved seeds because I realized I'd never be able to get cuttings probably. And just thought I'd experiment. And out of the different ones I have, this is the one that actually started developing later than the other ones, meaning I didn't have fruit on them until a year after the other ones. And then lo and behold, the fruit are bigger than the other ones. The plant is a little healthier. And since people
huge.
recently who saw posts I made are requesting cuttings, I thought people have to know like more about the fruit so they can decide whether they actually want to grow this. So I figured what a great way to, get some opinions is to have Paul try it, and then later visit some other people down the road in a bit today. While I have all this fruit I can share.
Yeah, and it's off season, so I mean these are winter, we would call these winter fruit, right?
Yeah, you got some thorns on your finger there.
Yeah, life happens.
But
I felt it. Yeah, I guess that's a drawback about some of these, is that they do get thorns, but you just brush them off, right, when they're ripe.
yeah, so one thing about seeing like dragon fruit online in the group is people constantly think, or it's typical for people to think, look, like that must be the best one. I've got to have that one. And since people are buying it, I don't have the time to tell everyone who I talk to, like, these are the drawbacks or these are the positives. The photos are obviously like positives. So I'm hoping that today I could share a little bit about what people should know if they're going to grow something like this. It's an off-season fruit, like some other Desert King seedlings that are off-season fruit.
What are some other positives besides the size? I mean, here's a Diego's Desert King, which is consistently smaller, at least in my experience, than these. So I see a larger size, a different shape. They're very elongated. It's going to be probably a similar color flesh, I would assume. A magenta inside, dark magenta?
It's actually a red color.
Red color. Okay, so it's more red than magenta.
Where other related seedlings are magenta, like a bright, vibrant color, these are like red, like the polyrhizis style red.
Okay, and you call it desert weed because it grows like a weed in your yard, right? You don't even fertilize it, you said?
Yeah, I was going to call it weed whacker before because a family member hacked my first fruit with a weed whacker because they couldn't see it. And then later, I figured if I can connect it to Desert King, people who don't get a chance to talk to me or see a video could relate it to Desert King. So I called it Desert Weed after Desert King.
Yeah, I like the name, and it grows like a weed. It seems like the plant material is very vigorous from what I've seen.
So as far as positives, it grows well. That's a positive. Anybody who gets a lot of cold will see some damage on any plant they have. So this one can take some damage, but overall, it does better than all the other Desert King seedlings I have.
So, and you grow several, right?
I've got several of those.
And this one, in your opinion, grows the best out of the seeds?
It grows the best out of the others.
Okay. And it's not too thorny. I mean, it's very similar. And these thorns on these hybrids, these Desert King seedlings, are actually spinier than you think. Like, I'll get stabbed by them, and they're a lot more stout. So I did notice that's a unique trait about these. What is the negatives you were thinking about, some of the traits for this plant?
I would say some of the negatives is this one being self-sterile. If you haven't had the experience of how to save pollen, you can get a lot of flowers, which this one does get plenty of flowers. But then if you can't set fruit because something happened to your pollen, it was damaged in the freezer, you won't get the fruit. You'll be sad all winter wondering, what did I do wrong? And it could be maybe not knowing how to save pollen properly.
Or having a late season bloom. Maybe some sugar dragon might be able to bloom later in the season like that, so you could have some fresh pollen.
Yeah.
But you'd have to have different varieties. You couldn't just grow this alone.
I'm lucky to have one variety that does flower late. It doesn't take as long as this one to develop. It's Edgar, not Edgar's baby. And that pollen alone will set fruit on this.
Okay.
Other things that have set fruit, some random ones from the neighborhood where I see flowers growing over backyards, I'll harvest that pollen for these flowers. And what's one? Oh, I have another related Desert King seedling where I just use its pollen on these flowers and it set fruit.
And it sets fruit, okay.
So it has that as a positive.
That's a good thing.
It's not so picky.
Yeah, some varieties can be really picky about their cross-pollination sources, right?
Right.
And then, but these are all consistently the same size, right? I mean, I don't see any small. You don't really see this on the desert wheat, a smaller fruit, or are they? Am I right, or are they?
That's like the outlier. They're rare. It's rare to see.
It's rare to see it. So they're almost always this longer, larger size. They're about what, a pound?
Yes, the one you're holding now is a pound, and this one's bigger than that one. So I think they're all in the 1 pound range, give or take. I left 3 on the vine, and 2 of those are smaller than all of these, just a little bit less spear-shaped and bulky. So they were greener, so I didn't pick those and bring all of them. And
they start to get a really nice darker color there. It's really pretty. So have you ever left them on the vine long enough to be solid? Solid red?
I did last season, and that's when I had my best experience with this particular variety, where it had the flavors I liked in the other seedlings, meaning the acidity. I wouldn't have expected that leaving it on longer would still have acidity based on what Ramiro Lobo had taught, that, you know, you pick earlier to keep that acidity. If you wait too long, you get the sweetness and you lose the acidity.
So it was still balanced.
But this one still had some balance in it.
And they're on the vine at least half a year?
Half a year.
Okay. So about 180 days, 200 days, something like that?
Yeah, from flower opening, you can bank on half a year here in Southern California.
Okay. And do you think that they'll be able to have a shorter harvest time in the tropics?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
any
heat plus, you know, plenty of sun will help the plants not to go so dormant. I think I have the side of the house where these are growing casts a shadow plus an avocado tree, so I don't know what's optimal yet for these.
So they get a part sun. The mother plant gets a part sun environment.
It gets part sun environment.
Okay. Well, let's cut one open. I want to try. Unless you have more background, so I'm getting excited.
We start with this one that.
All right. How do you like to cut your fruit? This way, or I like to do them this way? Do you care?
Like you do.
All right. Oh wow, that's beautiful. The
Now,
seeds are a
never
little bit
seen
bigger.
This magenta.
Oh really? So
They're
this is
usually
more
a dark
magenta.
red.
Well, what do you think the difference is? A pollen source or just the temperature, the climate?
I have no clue.
Huh.
This year I wasn't so careful with documenting what I put on each particular flower.
Wow,
But I'm
that's
excited
pretty.
to see that.
Okay. So do you want to cut them or should I bricks it first? Let's do that.
Yeah, do the bricks.
All right. Man, I'm excited. Look at how long that color is, just really pretty. So traditionally it's a redder fruit, you said.
Yeah, let's just grab a random one like this one and see if it's
Too bright.
redder.
Okay.
Napkin. Can I get one of your napkins?
Of course.
Perfect. That's actually good. So you can do that as you're bricksing. Let's see. I'll cut this one up down the middle. Oh, actually, it has thorns. So if you don't like thorns, the plus side is they come off quite easy. The downside is, you can prick yourself. You just saw Paul stick himself a few times, and he didn't
Yeah,
make too big
barely
of a fuss,
feel it.
but he's on video.
17 and 7/10. So definitely a nice level. I'm sure that they'll get sweeter.
Let's see. I didn't want any seeds. Thorns to end up on this thing. This one's a little redder,
Yeah, it does look redder.
and it could be that I'm indoors and my camera looks redder.
Yeah, we're in the full sun right now. But man, what a pretty color. All right, I'm ready to try some. So I'm gonna cut them up here. So Scott, you can try some.
Now this one acts like Colombiana, where you get the diuretic effect, so you do have to be careful. Like I'm gonna eat some more of these later.
So it will clean you out.
If you don't see me eating too much now, it's because I know I'm gonna be sampling some later.
You gotta pace yourself.
And I don't see any of the seeds have sprouted inside, which can happen sometimes on these fruit that have been on the vine for that long. Wow, I like it a lot. And this one was in the fridge, correct, for a while? Is this the one?
For a couple weeks since I posted that first one that I cut.
Wait, this fruit's been in the fridge for a few weeks?
Actually, it was out of the
Wow.
fridge for a week and a half. I just left it in the back room where it's kind of chilly. Then I noticed one of the sides was getting a little soft, so I thought I need to put you in the fridge.
Oh my gosh, this is great for being out off of the plant for so long.
The seed's got a hint of spice.
It does, it's not earthy. It's slightly more acidic than sweet, I'm getting, but in a very enjoyable way.
Yeah, I like it.
It reminds me of what I would, like if I imagine mixing a yellow Pelora with some American Beauty or a Guatemalensis. That's kind of the profiles I detect, the
Okay.
tasting, which are both varieties I really like.
This is that second one. I'm just going to sample one now while you're,
Really
while you're
juicy.
sampling there. Feel free to hop
I'd
in
like
on.
to try one of these. Definitely a little darker, especially as the sun, we have some clouds now, and the flesh looks darker. So it is possibly the lighting.
This one's just a tad firmer. Just a slight tad more
Wow.
acidic, but in that same flavor range.
That is so good.
I really like this a lot. I can see why you want to share the desert weed.
What I'm hoping for is that, try as many fruit as possible so that I can give people information about, what might cause flavors to not be so good and which ones, you can bank on being worth sharing with family because, we want people who know that our hobbies take so much of our time and it's because of this. Here, try this fruit. We want them to go like, dude, that's pretty cool that you do that.
Yeah, especially this time of year when, it's hard to get good fruit, especially in Southern California. This is a wonderful off-season fruit. I really, really like it. I actually prefer this one more than Diego's Desert King personally, just because Diego's Desert King is a bit more sweet, at least in my experience,
Interesting.
and it doesn't have as much of the acidity.
And I'm willing to bet for anyone who has Diego is that if you start experimenting with harvest time, you could find an optimal time where there's going to be times that it could be better than this one. Mm-hmm. And I'm reminded of Ramiro when he's always asked, like, what's your favorite variety? He would tell people that the presentations, well, this year it's this one. And that would confuse us. Like, what do you mean? Well, last year it was Armando. And this year it's Physical Graffiti. Like, some varieties outperform in 1 year, and then they have down years.
Yeah. And
Not
do you
knowing
think
that-
that's like a plant factor or a weather factor? Or we're not sure.
A number of things that Ramiro wasn't able to fully like explain because they had a regimen of fertilizing things that was kind of consistent because they're doing research. So it taught us to be like patient with the plants that we have in case we don't like something 1 year. Maybe it's just an off year. So
Oh man, what I like about it, it's really juicy. It's smooth. It's not grainy at all. Like it's really, really good. Wow.
last year's ones were a darker red, and the ones I left on, I noticed they were not as firm as this one. So I'm happy to find that these have the firmness,
Yeah, because sometimes it'd be a little mushy.
like a mushier fruit, right? I
I
prefer-
don't like that either. I prefer it like this. It's really firm.
How many days from the pollen set did you?
September
That's it.
28th are the photos of some of these right here. Was when the flower opened.
Okay.
And I pollinated.
And it's what, April 5th today? 6th, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like 6 months.
Wow.
The flowering portion doesn't take as long. That's kind of like standard. The bud appears, and maybe 30, 35 days later or less, you see the flower open. So that's not a long waiting time. But the rest, you just have to be patient. There's no other way around that.
Yeah, you got to be patient. How do you compare this one to the other seedlings you're evaluating, the sisters?
I like the acidity in the other ones that I'm finally starting to taste more of in this one compared to last year. So I like those other ones more because they have more of the acidity pop
Okay.
mixed with the sweetness. They're higher bricks. Like that first one we tried, you could tell the flavors weren't too strong sugar-wise. And there was acidity mixed into it, so that helped the flavor.
So some of them will bricks in the 20s. I mean, anything above personally like 15, 16, I usually find a lot of enjoyable fruit anywhere. And then at the other end, once it hits the mid-20s, it's kind of too sweet, at least personally. So I think this is right in the nice range and a really well-balanced. I also am noticing it's got a unique kind of like the little spots. You don't see that in some, at least I've never seen that.
Like texture?
Like marbling kind of? Like it's just different colors of red. It's really pretty. And so Desert King is a Columbiana crossed with a Polyrhizis, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's where it gets the unique, and this is a much larger fruit than a Columbiana. So.
Which was what Israel was after. And there we have it. I'm lucky that the plant does as well because a lot of people do like these fruit. Like I've never tried a Diego's. Curious what that tastes like.
We'll have to
Whatever.
try it. We'll compare them. Let's try them together.
My gut tells me it's better than this one. Just
Really?
instinctively, yeah. Because I'm seeing it, looking at it like as if it was one of my own. And even though they're not that big, they're just like Jolly Ranchers almost.
They can be. Yeah, I really liked it last season when we had a fruit about a year ago. I mean, they tend to be on the vine for 6 months, but to me, I like the texture. I really like this fruit, so we'll have to try them side by side. Maybe we'll do that today. So is there anything else you want to share about the desert weed that we missed?
No, just be mindful that it takes like a lot of hard work. People who know that we have this hobby know that we're out at night doing all this work. So you got to be willing to save pollen, and then I don't know, just be patient.
So be patient with the plant and then expect that it's not going to flower till the end of the season in Southern California?
Right.
The later time of year?
So start planning in advance for who are your friends in your area that can help you with pollen. The fresher the pollen, the better.
And do you ever use frozen pollen on this, or do you keep it in the refrigerator?
I have, but I've mostly been able to rely on Edgar pollen because it's available.
And it's fresh.
Yeah, but one thing I noticed, this is something you can try out. I've had Edgar flowers that closed. I didn't harvest pollen from them because I knew others were coming on the way for new flowers of these. And so I dip into that old pollen from the day before. And on one occasion, it was 2-day-old pollen, but the flower already closed, and it still set fruit.
Oh, so you were able to collect pollen after the flower had already bloomed and was closing up, and it still worked. I've
did.
never tried that. Okay, that's a good idea.
And I remember hearing Gray Martin, mentioning, the importance of keeping your bag tight if you're testing something, because 2 and 3 days later, pollen could still cross-contaminate something, or whatever it is. This pollen could last longer than we know.
A lot longer than we think.
It's just that moisture is an enemy to this stuff. So if you're storing it in the freezer and you think you stored it right, you could have done the best you wanted to, but it only takes a little moisture to damage it.
It could even just be a really humid day when you collect the moisture, the pollen. Okay. So that's you just got to be you got to plan ahead with this variety.
Plan ahead and be patient, and hopefully you get this kind of fruit.
Well, this has been a very enjoyable experience, so thank you for coming down and bringing them and letting us try it today. And I look forward to growing desert weed. I really like this fruit. It was really balanced in my opinion, and for me to compare it to a Pelora and an American Beauty, those are probably some of my favorite to eat. And to me, it just feels like those are mashed together in this fruit.
Pick one to keep here when I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out Saingarongs Orange Dragon. I'm really excited to try this fruit. It's weighing in at 1.5 pounds, a little bit more than that, actually. And look at this beast. Now, this came from the late Leo Manuel's collection, and his friend Saingarong was in the Yahoo group, and this came from Thailand, a friend of a friend. And it supposedly originated in Israel, and it's a undatus hybridized with a megalanthus. So I'm really excited to try this. Here's what the bud looks like on the plant. Here's the flower developing. And here is the bloom. Now, this bloom occurred on October 9th, and today is May 4th. So it was just a few days short of 7 months from flower to fruit. So wow, I hope it's not overripe. I hope it looks good inside. Let's go ahead and give it a taste. Wow, look at that. Not too many seeds, but a beautiful white flesh. It's a little bit on the thin skin side, not too bad. And this took 7 months to ripen. So wow, really exciting. And you can see it's starting to turn a little bit pink. So it didn't turn very orange. It turned more orange last year, but that's probably due to our cold weather. So let's see how sweet this thing is. And let's give it a taste. Wow, that looks really nice, huh? Flesh is not gelatinous in any way. And I hope it tastes as good as it looks. Now this is not going to taste like a white flesh store-bought fruit. This one is going to taste more like a yellow-skinned Pelora, if you're familiar with that, because of the Hylocereus megalanthus DNA. And 18 5/10. So last year it got, I believe, into 20s, but that's okay. Wow. The flesh is dense, but not in a bad way. Not mushy at all. A nice sweetness to it. Not tropical. Tastes like a yellow-skinned Pelora, but a bit more balanced, I would say. A little bit of acidity, but wow, really a nice off-season fruit. We call these winter fruits, but I can almost call them a spring fruit because we already have flower buds, and I just picked this yesterday. I had it in the refrigerator for 24 hours or so. Man, really good. A bit more on the mild side, I would say. It's not like it overwhelms you. And if you had to pick between this one and say Diego's Desert King or Desert Weed that we just reviewed recently, I would go with Desert King, Diego's Desert King, or the Desert Weed. This one is just not as complex. It doesn't have the acidity, but it is really delicious and really refreshing. I am going to eat this entire thing in one sitting. It's that good. Wow. Yeah, it's just really mildly sweet. Like a really, really, really good melon, but a little bit more dense. Zero earthiness on the seeds. You can see the seeds are a little smaller than a typical undatus. And really juicy. Hey, this is Paul. I'm here with Paco, and today we're going to compare Desert Weed with Diego's Desert King seedling. Now, to be fair, I wouldn't have picked this one quite yet. You can see it's still green, but it has been on the plant for over 6 months. So we just wanted to try it, and I'm actually excited because I really like this fruit when it's fully red, and maybe it might be more acidic since we picked it early. So either way, we figure it's rare to have both of these here together, and so let's give them a taste. So let's just go for it. So yeah, as you can see, there's not very many seeds. Look at that. Color is lighter, and it's definitely not quite as ripe as I was hoping. But who knows? I mean, you've said that sometimes when they're green like this, they taste pretty good, right?
Yeah, and whoever has Diego's and has already liked it already knows, you know, what its profile flavor was like. So we'll be fair to this one if it's not as good as it could be.
Well, let's see how sweet it is. It's definitely a lighter colored flesh, I would say, than Desert Weed. It's a little bright here. 19 2/10.
Okay.
So still pretty sweet. We didn't test this one. I guess we will. And what was the sweetest Desert Weed you've ever recorded?
19.
19.
Where some of these that I have related to these have been 22.
In the 20s. Okay, so this one, 19, I mean, Brick score to me is just a piece of data, important data in some aspects, but generally anything sweeter than 14 in my experience tastes pretty darn good. So this one is,
I think it was 17 something on.
well, this one's 18 9/10. So we tested the one that was in the fridge and it was 17.7. So this one again is 18 9/10, so sweeter. So I'm excited. All right, how do you want to do this? Do you want to spoon it so you could try the center?
Sure. Only takes a little bit.
I'm going to try the middle of this.
Like punch flavor. I really like it.
Yeah, it tastes just about the same as when it's fully turned color. So to me, it tastes just like last year's fruit. It is really kind of like a candy in a way. Juicy. They're pretty similar. Let's see.
I find most of mine that are related to Desert Weed, like in the Jolly Rancher style flavor.
Side by side, I actually prefer the Desert Weed. It's got a little more acidity, at least these two samples. Let me see again. This is more on the sweet side, less acidity.
Is this your first time harvesting Diego's though? For
No, this
yourself?
is the third season I've had fruit. And it always tastes just like that. Really kind of, you know, on the tartness to sweet spectrum, it's always up towards the sweet end.
Okay.
Where this one I feel is more balanced. So side by side, if I could only grow one, personally I would grow Desert Weed off of this tasting because I like the balance. It's more balanced. This one's more sweet. This one's more balanced.
But is Diego self-fertile? Because if it is, that's like a huge plus.
It's not tested. I haven't tested it properly. You know, like you said, it's easy to cross-contaminate. But these fruits set during, it was raining, and I just left them alone. But I did have some other flowers out that were blooming late. And so these ones were totally self-pollinated. I didn't do anything. But in the past years, I try to cross-pollinate everything. But I do plan to do a proper test on it this year.
For those who have Diego's, like test them out, and if it's self-fertile, like guaranteed keep that. Out of all the ones I'm growing, which is like 5 at the moment, 2 are self-fertile. So like that's the biggest plus for me is that if that had the plant health that this did would, that'd be fantastic. I'd be set.
Yeah, I need to test it for sure. But I mean, I'm leaning more towards it's self-fertile because, like I said, in the rain, it set 2 fruit out of 4 flowers open and 2 set all on their own out of the 4. So that's one thing, though, is I think generally most varieties have not been properly tested. I mean, a lot of people just say, oh, they're self-fertile, but there's some steps that you need to do a proper test. And sometimes you have to test repeatedly based off of the temperature and the weather too. So I definitely want to test it more for self-fertility, but...
For a great video on testing, Gray did one where he uses the 1 gallon paint strainer bags.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I was starting to test, so he made a video that was helpful in that range. So you
Okay,
can
I'll
look
have to
at
watch that
Gray's
one.
videos. He has one on and recommending how long to leave the bag on and pre-bagging and stuff that will help you like figure out whether your test was successful or not.
Okay, yeah, because I've seen sometimes the flowers aren't even open and the bees have taken all the pollen. So, I mean, if bees are able to penetrate a flower that's not open, I'm sure other insects could as well. And that would definitely skew the data for self-fertility, right?
Yep.
Wow. I feel like really privileged to try both of these side by side. Did you want to try a little bit, or are you good?
I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna visit some other friends in a moment.
Sure.
To try these, and the last time I had a full one of these, I had the effect you get when you eat megalanthus.
Some people are immune like me. I could eat probably 5 of these fruit and it doesn't affect me like some people.
I remember the very first lady who got a case of the Pelora, she posted the box and we were all jealous looking at these photos. And then later she did not know that you had to be careful with them.
Mm-hmm.
And she later replied, I'll never have these again.
Really?
Because she went overboard because they were just so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have too many, you'll be stuck on the throne for a while, you know what I mean? Well, wow, thank you so much, Paco, for letting us compare these and being willing to do it. I'm really surprised about the difference of the flavor profiles, though. I mean, I like how balanced that is, but if your sweetness is your jam, maybe Diego's Desert King. And they both do grow really vigorously and really well. And ours personally grows in a part sun environment, just like the desert weed. And I believe if it's in a full sun in Southern California, you probably might get a little bit of yellowing and maybe a bit of damage. So at least for Diego's, I know for a fact that you may not want to give it 100% sunlight. But either way, really great fruit, especially this time of year. It's April in Southern California, and we're enjoying these really high quality fruit. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our fruit review on Tyrone Biggums. Now, this unique variety is one of the late Leo Manuel's hybrids. A seedling, he actually grew 20 pots worth, and they were labeled Hylocereus megalanthus crossed with Hylocereus costarocensis. And the seedlings are very different. You can see that this one puts on a really heavy farina coat. Look at that. So hence the name Tyrone Biggums. I mean, it just gets on you. So really interesting plant material. The flower buds look like this. They're very interesting as well. And in my humble opinion, I am not 100% sure that these were crossed with megalanthus DNA, just based off of all of the plants I have and what I've learned about these plants so far. It's very possible he crossed it with that pollen and then maybe a bee cross-pollinated it with something else. But either way, they're very delicious, dynamic. This is a sister seedling of Leo's Dragon, weighing in at 3/4 of a pound. And let's go ahead and just cut this beautiful, beautiful fruit. Look at that. Ooh, it's not red. It's got some magenta tint. Now this is a costarocensis fruit, the parent plant, Hylocereus costarocensis. So let's cut that open just because I just want to see inside, see how similar they are. Oh yeah, they are. So you can tell that it's very much like the costarocensis plant, very costarocensis dominant. And I'm really excited to try this. So let's first see how sweet it is. I'm really interested to see. And now typically we want something around 16 is kind of what I like, 16 and greater. Once you get in the mid-20s, it's almost just too sweet. So I like a sweet and sour. So if we get somewhere around 17, 18, that is my personal sweet spot. Ooh, I already zeroed it, sorry. I'm a little rusty. It's the first fruit we've reviewed this season. So remember, you want to get the liquid from the center here because that's where the sugar content is greatest in these fruit. And you don't want any pulp, you just want the liquid. And of course, I didn't bring all of my tools out, so I'm just going to do it this way today. Don't want to get any seeds in there. Again, you just want the juice. Just get that juice loose. Okay. Now I can already tell this is a little too thick, but let's just go for it and see. and it may be skewed data. So we're just going to say about 15. Now, remember, that's just a number and a sample size, and the sweetness and the tart and the balance, that's what matters. Sweetness and acidity. I haven't had a Mostrosity fruit for a few years, and it's definitely complex. No earthiness. It's got a nice sweetness, and it does have a nice acidity. I do get berry flavors, very typical of most red flesh. And it kind of actually reminds me of some of our Orahona seedlings in a strange way, despite the different genetics. But taste-wise, that's what I'm thinking about. And the seeds are, whoops, they're interesting. Here's a little sunlight on it. Do I like the seeds? Let me try again. No earthiness. It's just rather mild. I really like it. I think next time I'm going to let it stay on the plant a little longer. Like this one, if you notice, see how thin the skin is versus here. So I think I picked this a little early. This is the first time picking this plant. So next time I'm going to pick it later. Let's see how it compares to its mother. Wow. Wow, that's very tangy. Sweeter, definitely. Okay. They're both good. And they're both keepers for me. And I really like how unique all of these 20 pots of Leo's Dragons, sister seedlings, are turning out. They're very, very unique plants. Wide a range of DNA genetics. So there you go. Not a bad one at all. Not as good as my favorite here. Let me go ahead and cut this just so I could see personally. I love Guatemalans. This is Leo's eBay self-fertile. And this one is the sweetest one I've ever brixed of the Guatemalans. This is brixing in the 21s. So let me see what I think compared to Tyrone. Yeah, just such a different experience, but in a good way. I still would take a Guatemalensis any day over these, I hate to say, but I'm just being honest. Taste-wise, something about this, I really like the flavor, but it could just be the way I am. Either way, all of these I would consider a tier 1 fruit, much better than any grocery store that you would go and buy these fruit. Typically, if you buy them in the store, they're going to be white flesh, but man, I really enjoyed that. I'm going to go around for some more. Let's see. Yeah, going back to this, I do like it. Just a little bit more bland, in my humble opinion. But look at the color. Let me see. See that? So the sunlight's just perfect right now. So hopefully you could see that it's more of a magenta, like a deep red magenta. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our fruit review on Kennerson's Ocamponis. Now, our friend Robert Beltran deserves credit for this. He saved this variety. It's actually named after George Kennerson of Kennerson's Hamul Nursery, La Quinta Botanica. And it weighs in just over a pound. I'm really excited to try it. It's known for its stunning red growth. Look at the growth on this plant. Absolutely stunning. The new growth, and then it turns a really beautiful powdery blue with that farina. And then look at the huge, beautiful flowers. And that's my favorite thing about Ocamponis. They are definitely an ornamental variety. Let's see if they taste as good as they look. All right. Now, Ocamponis tend to be a more polarizing flavor. To me, they often taste like sweet beets or very vegetal. So let's see how sweet they are today. And let's estimate the sugar content here using our Brix refractometer. There we go. And these will generally Brix in the anywhere from like the 14s to maybe the 16s. If you get anything above 16, Valdivia Roja will get into the 20s, which is possibly why they use that one for the Asunta series, Asunta 7. But these are definitely, wow, look at that, 22.1. And I'm still afraid to eat this, to be honest with you. I mean, look at the sugar content on this plant. All right, let's see if it is something I want to eat. Wow. One of the better Ocamponis. I left it on there quite a long time. I will definitely keep this plant. I will not feel the wrath of our axe. And when these hit, well, I mean, they're very low producers. They tend to not produce very much as well. But wow, when you get a good one like this, it's kind of like candied beets to me. The texture is very dense, a little mushy, a lot of seeds, but this one's not earthy at all. I actually was very afraid. I expected that I wouldn't like this today. So I'm very, very pleasantly surprised. But I can't eat the whole thing, to be honest with you. It's a lot of sweetness, slight earthiness actually. I got a little bit, but there's no tart. And that's what's the problem. I really love these Guatemalans because they will have that nice balance of sweetness and acidity. Although that is pretty extreme. So if you like a candied type of fruit, or maybe something like candied yams, candied beet kind of vibe, this is your jam. But wow, I am pleasantly surprised. And just out of curiosity, let's try a few more here. This is George Emmerich number 3, really rare one. Looks kind of like Valdivia Roja, but these are all Ocamponis here, by the way. See, no matter how different it looks, it tastes very, very similar. Ugh. Just kind of hard for me. I think it's the density of the texture. But wow, these almost taste the same. And this is probably about 19% sugar. It's really sweet as well. I've never had Enzo, which is another one. Very similar to Trisha. And let's see how this one is. Much better texture. Wow, this one's actually a winner too. So I've been removing some of the Ocamponis in our collection, but these 3 will stay. They've all made the cut. No earthiness on this right now. They're all kind of this sweet vibe like this one. Probably not as high in the 20s as this one, I should say. But very, very similar. Very delicious. I would actually recommend these. And wow, let me try this again. The texture is not my favorite, but very sweet. This one's a bit more vegetal. And Enzo is the one I could eat the most of. It's got a bit sweet, a little bit of tart. And just to kind of clean my palate here, go back to my love. This is Nicaraguan red. You can see the different color. Even though this one's a little bland, just kind of sets me just right back at home. So still, Guatemalans are my favorite. However, I gotta give a thumbs up to these Ocamponis here. Very pleasantly surprised, especially Kennerson's Ocamponis. Wow. Hey, this is Paul, and today we're gonna review an unreleased hybrid I named Mostrosity. And believe it or not, I actually already removed it from the collection. I did that yesterday, and I'll show you why. So this plant, the fruit's weighing in at about a ½ pound. That was the largest fruit I had. I expect it would have been bigger if I kept the plant around, but its parent plant, my favorite plant, one of my favorites to eat, Paul's Laverne Pink is one of them, and the other is Trisha. So I crossed Paul's Laverne Pink with Trisha, and we got this Mostrosity. Now Trisha's fruit kind of looks like this Bronxensis a little bit. So mixing these two, poof, we got this. And at first I was really excited. The plant did really well in the sun. It was vigorous. And then if you look at the flesh, it's even pretty. Little seedy, unique shape, and a nice, pretty dark magenta. And it's been consistent. I've eaten several of them. I think the plant put on, I want to say about a dozen, maybe a little more fruit. And they've all been around a ½ pound. So the size is a little small, possibly they get bigger, but the problem with this plant is that it's the texture. And so, one, it's not as juicy as you could see as other varieties. And it was still sweet. I mean, we'll check the bricks here. There we go, I just zeroed it. Get rid of the water. And the highest I think I got in the 17s, I want to say, maybe a little higher. But it doesn't matter because it's the texture for me. So let's give it a formal review here and see why it was exterminated. So I have had slightly sweeter fruit, but it doesn't matter. I mean, even if it was in the 20s, it's still, I wouldn't keep this thing. So the problem with it, it's mushy. That's what I call it. Some people say creamy. Ugh. Mush. I mean, I'm spitting it out. Oh. So I can't even eat a whole fruit. And why would I want somebody else to grow this and have something this subpar? So, I mean, I could try every fruit here, but it's always just super mushy. Almost tastes like an overripe fruit. And it's just sweet. Kind of like sweet candied beets, I would say. No earthiness, though. Not earthy, don't get me wrong. It's just the texture. So some people maybe really like this texture, but to me, like, I don't even want to eat this. It's like, I don't know, it's a texture thing. And there's no acidity. So it's really flat. It's like a sweet, kind of flat, bland candied beet. So there's no excuse. I'm not going to keep this plant. I'm not going to promote this plant. I actually just cut and removed this plant yesterday, and I'm really glad I did. But here is a one-of-a-kind, unreleased dragon fruit variety that, it's like torture to swallow, and it's all about the texture. It's super mushy. Maybe some people say smooth, but it's like granular. So I do not like that in my dragon fruit varieties. I wonder, it's probably the Ocamponis trait, the Tricia trait, but not all Ocamponis traits have this mushiness. So it's really, I find it really interesting because Edgar crossed Tricia with a Hylocereus undatus, and that fruit's delicious. It's sweeter, it's got a better texture, it's more firm, not mushy. And another one that I enjoy would have to be Yala X. Leo crossed his Yala with an undatus. So I just thought that using Paul's Laverne Pink would be an undatus hybrid, right? And it would make this fruit better, but it actually made it worse. So there you go. I am going to toss these in the trash right now. I am never going to eat another Mostrosity, and hopefully you can understand why I don't like it. So mushy texture, flat flavors, low acidity. It's got some sweetness, but it's just flat. It's not dynamic, and we can grow much better things. So I actually am going to remove its sister seedling as well, and I have 2 other seedlings from the cross that I've never talked about. So they actually are getting quite big, but I'm going to remove all of them because I don't even want to mess with this DNA. And if there is a winner, I don't care. I want to hybridize things without Ocamponis. Personally, I'm never going to use another Ocamponis in my hybrids. So there you go. Hope that helps. Give us a like and a subscribe. And there is the beginning, middle, and end of our plant Mostrosity. Beautiful plant, beautiful flower. As you can see, here's the flower and the plant material. But man, it's a bad fruit. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out a review on our G1 dragon fruit. Now, G stands for Guatemalensis, or Guatemalan, and you can see it's number 1. In fact, there's a G1, a G2, and here's G3. So these all originate, I believe, from Kwangong, and they're very similar to American Beauty. So you can see I brought some other Guatemalans along. Here's Nicaraguan Red, here's Fullerton, here is a hybrid 5S renamed Purple Haze. So you can see they have some similarities, but here's the star of the show today, weighing in at 64 hundredths of a pound. Now it's been in the fridge for about a week, but it should still be delicious. So here goes G1. As you can see, beautiful magenta fleshed fruit. The skin's nice and thin, indicating that it's ripe. The seeds are small, and this is my personal favorite variety to eat. So let's see how sweet it is today. These will range anywhere from probably 15, 16, up into about 20. So this is just an estimation of the sugar content out of this sample here, and you can see just how juicy these Guatemalans are. That's my favorite thing about them. They're very juicy, remind me kind of a berry and a kiwi maybe mixed. So absolutely my favorite variety to consume. And you can see it's 16, so 15 and 8/10. Now we did have a heat wave, so I did probably pick this a little early because it was ripening so quick, so they can get sweeter. Very typical Guatemalensis. You got sweet, you got some tart, you got really delicious juice. The seeds are not earthy. Really delicious. Absolutely wonderful. I would describe the flavor as maybe a berry kiwi mix, really juicy. Some people say watermelon. I believe watermelon is more the texture. Flavor-wise, this tastes way better than a watermelon in my opinion. Really juicy. Not as sweet as they can get. Not as large as they can get. They can get much bigger. I've had a G1 over a pound. I've had it Brixing about 19. Now here's what the flower looks like and the flower buds. Here's what the plant material looks like. Very typical Guatemalan. It will have 2 or 3 spines higher up on the plant. As it comes down, you'll see it fades to 1 spine. And they can be horny as well. So there you go, G1, absolutely delicious variety. Similar to so many other varieties like American Beauty. Honestly, I can't tell the difference between this and maybe an American Beauty or something similar, like this Fullerton. So see, very, very similar varieties. Seeds are the same size. I think Guatemalans tend to be a really dominant trait when people hybridize with them. And that one tastes better. This one's sweeter. So, as you can see, there is slightly different ranges of flavors, but also it's due to temperature, heat wave, could be the size of the plant and other factors. But I've had these Guatemalan G1s taste just like this. So really delicious fruit. You can't go wrong. Even though it's not in the 20s, it doesn't matter because you get a nice sweetness followed up with some nice acidity. So very balanced fruit. Absolutely my favorite variety. We grow about 38 Guatemalensis types. So believe it or not, there are quite a few and they all taste really similar. So there you go, there's G1. Give us a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you can enjoy one of these delicious fruit. Oh, another benefit is that these are almost always self-fertile. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our fruit review on the ultra-rare Hylocereus Bronxensis. Now, this actually comes from Mexico, and if you see here, it lives part of its life in the Bronx Arboretum in New York. And then it was taken to, in this case, to Huntington Botanical Gardens, where in 1998, my friend Leo Manuel got a cutting of this plant. As you can see, look at this old date. And he grew it for about 30 years, and now I have the same plant. And look at this plant. It's very similar to Hylocereus Ocamponis. Its growth is very similar. Its looks, it puts on a farina, but it's also slightly different. And this one is weighing in at over a pound, and honestly, I've eaten the fruit once before, and it was inedible. It tasted really gross. So I'm not gonna lie, I am afraid to eat this beast today. So let's just do it. Let's go for it. So there you are. It took quite a long time to ripen, and you can see it's actually overripe. See how it kind of broke down here on the outside? So it turned color, and it took a while to turn color, and then I picked it as like 2 days after it turned color, and look at that, it was overripe. So it does, in my experience, it took longer than a typical Ocamponis to ripen, but I did not track the dates. I'll do that next year. So first, let's see how sweet this plant will get. And it looks very much like a typical Ocamponis, which would be, well, there's some water in that one, so that's going to skew the data. All right, so I dropped the pipette. There we are. Here's the other pipette, the clean one, the dry one. So you don't want any juice, or you only want the juice, excuse me. You don't want any of the plant material, and you don't want bubbles either. All right, let's see. So 15, middle of the road, and oh man. Okay, I can do this. Oh, it tastes worse. Oh my gosh, absolutely horrible. I don't even want to do that again. Oh man, it's like moldy Ocamponis. Oh, shoot, man, the things I do for you guys. All right. Oh gosh, it smells like an armpit. So a little, it tastes like a sweaty armpit. That's, okay. Sweetness, it got sweet. Oh, so really astringent. Oh my gosh, I can't eat any more of that. Never again. It's very powerful. It's like eating a sweaty Ocamponis. That's the best way I could describe it. Like if you've ever went and like ran 3 miles in a hot day. Why am I even brixing? I don't even know what I'm doing. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm gonna use this. This is a GE3 Ocamponis, which usually I don't like. And it tastes like heaven compared to that. Okay. Oh. Now this is not the Bronxensis blue. That is a totally different plant, okay? This one is an ornamental and very, very rare, but absolutely by far the most disgusting dragon fruit I've ever eaten. I feel sick to my stomach. I feel like I licked a really sweaty sports player's armpit. Like that's the only way to describe it, and it's horrible. It's like torture. So if you want to punk your friends and give them the worst dragon fruit ever, go for this. Grow this plant, give them this dragon fruit, tell them it's a really good red flesh, and you're gonna laugh. You're gonna fall to the ground laughing watching people try to eat this. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our fruit review on Don Burnett's 1-12. You can see it's weighing in at 0.6 of a pound. So nice size, and it's with a small Connie G, which is sister seedling 1-2, and Honesty 1-3. So let's cut them all open and see what they look like. So first up, 1-12. And look at that, a beautiful pink flesh. Wow, that's pretty. So that's really beautiful, actually. And here's the flower on 1-12. Look at how stunning it is. Absolutely gorgeous. So I'm excited to try that. And let's see Connie G. That's a magenta fleshed. You can see this one actually got some heat damage. So that's a bummer. It's overripe and heat damaged. Yeah, it's more overripe. You can see it's really thin skin. So that's what happens. So that's a bummer. That's not going to taste good. It's going to be gelatinous. But that's okay. Let's cut open Honesty now. I've never seen this one, the inside of it. And it looks to be like a light magenta. Wow, that's pretty. So a bit smaller, but very beautiful. All right, well, the star of the show today is 1-12. So let's see. We'll do a review on Honesty very soon. I have a larger fruit, well, several fruit, but one is actually pretty large. So we'll do a review on that based off of how this one tastes today. Okay, so first up, before I taste it, let's see how sweet it is. At least get a sample, I should say. Now remember, it's always sweetest right in the middle. And look at how juicy it is. That is exciting. So that's a nice trait. I like really juicy fruit. An 18 1/10, Don Burnett 1-12. Let's see how it tastes. Really good. Nice texture, crunchy seeds, sweet, but a little bit of acidity, not too much. In fact, you can see some of the seeds are starting to sprout there. So a little overripe. Some of these don't turn color too much, as you can see. Wow, that's really delicious. All right. Would like a little more acidity, and Connie G is going to taste better, even though it's a little bit overripe or cooked. Yeah, better flavor. Connie G is a better flavor in my humble opinion, but that's a bummer that it's overripe like that. Okay, let's see how sweet this one is. So the skin hasn't turned color at all on this 1-3 Honesty yet. So I'm having a hard time seeing when it's ripe. So this is the very first fruit that I picked. And it looks like it probably could have gone a little bit longer. Sweet, very similar flavor to these others. But I'm excited to see when I eat this when it's actually more ripe. This one just needs a little more time. It's not quite there yet, but really good. Here's the flower on Honesty. It's a white flower. And then here's the flower of Connie G as well. So interesting that this cross that Don Burnett made, how it makes such different unique flowers. And I think probably Queen Daenerys, look at this one, 1-4 is absolutely stunning. So there's 18 of these seedlings, and I would have to say still Connie G is my favorite tasting one. We'll do a formal review next season when we get a really big fruit. But all in all, this one's really delicious. Kind of similar to Delight, despite the very different genetics. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our fruit review on our Hypodermic. Now this is a new hybrid. This is G3 crossed with Physical Graffiti, and it's weighing in at just under a pound. The reason why we call it Hypodermic, hopefully you can see that thorn there, is that it will taper down to a single long thorn, hence the name Hypodermic. So really interesting fruit. I've had a few already, and I really, really like it. So let's get to work, and let's see what this beautiful fruit looks like. So there it is. So it's a little bit lighter in color than I would say possibly some of the other Guatemalans. Just slightly. It's very typical colored magenta, just slightly lighter colored up there. And that's great to see that none of the fruit has been damaged from the last heat wave. That was something I was worried about. We got over 100 degrees for several days as these fruit were ripening, and look at that, it did not affect the fruit at all. So let's taste a few and describe some of the flavors, as well as we'll test the sugar content. I need to be careful, I don't want to eat the center where it's sweetest. And just like the other fruit, really, really delicious. I like it a lot. Tastes kind of like a mixture of American Beauty, Dark Star, with a little bit more raspberry tartness at the finish that reminds me of like a red flesh like Lisa or Caslau. Really juicy. The seeds are not earthy. And it's almost like maybe the flesh is a little darker than what I'm used to. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's got a just nice sweetness and plenty of tartness, which is kind of what I'm most excited about. Because a lot of the dragon fruit varieties we grow, they have a sweetness about them, but not enough acidity in my humble opinion. Now before, these were Brixing in the 17s, and I did pick them a little early because we were getting so cold now. We got down into the 50s last night. So when we have hot and cold nights, or hot days and cold nights, we tend to have some of the fruit will split at the end, at the tip in the cone a little early. So look at that, these are Brixing higher this time in the 18s. So I'm sure it will get even sweeter as the plant matures. Just a winner. I mean, I hate to say this is probably the best fruit we've had this season. And I'm not saying that because this is an unreleased hybrid. It's just delicious. It reminds me a lot of Paul Thompson's hybrids mixed with American Beauty. I mean, that's just the easiest way to describe it. So, yeah, we get a little kind of a grape pop flavor, kind of like I taste in Dark Star. Just a phenomenal fruit. And the bummer is that this is self-sterile. So it's not self-fertile. So you want to cross-pollinate it to get these delicious fruit. Now here's a picture of the flower buds. Here's a picture of the flower blooming. And then again, here is the interesting growth of the plant, where you can see why we call it hypodermic. It has that really little taper, two or three spines at the base, and then down to the end, you'll see that single spine. But man, just absolute winner. Can't say enough how much I like this fruit. I mean, it's very similar to American Beauty. Don't think that you need to go spend a lot of money on this. And we don't charge any more for this cutting than other varieties that we like. But all in all, just a delicious fruit. This fruit is 3/4 of a pound, and they're getting even larger. Now we still have a few more fruit on the vine. The plant's been really resilient, taking a lot of sun. So that's why we are sharing this plant. You can see it is a winner in my book. Definitely a tier 1 fruit. So there you go. This is our hypodermic, absolutely delicious hybrid of G3 crossed with physical graffiti. And it was created by Richard Reed, a California rare fruit grower. And he gave us a seedling when it was about that big. So wow, I can't say enough good things about this variety. Definitely one of my favorite fruits of the year, if not the best one so far. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our fruit review on Esmeralda, the green-skinned pitahaya from Mexico. And it's gonna be a white-fleshed undatus. So really interesting looking fruit. Now it's hard to pick them when they're ripe, and they take quite a long time. I've heard 60 to 90 days, and what we did is we just waited until they cracked. So see how they cracked there? We did have a heat wave, and they were a little loose. So we tried, and we also did the squeeze test. They feel like a ripe avocado. So let's go for it. Let's see how these taste. And it looks like this one may needed more time. We'll see. There's the first one. Here's the next one. And so far, it's looking like the heat wave didn't damage the fruit too bad, although this one got damaged, see? So that's a bummer trait. So I was gonna hybridize it with this American Beauty pollen. I crossed it, but I'm not sure if I wanna grow the seeds seeing that trait. So it better wow me. So let's go ahead and taste a few and see just how sweet they taste. That's pretty good. Yeah, probably worth growing some seeds to see. Pretty typical undatus flavor. Mild. Hard to tell which one's sweetest. Maybe Brixton, probably around the 15s, if I had to guess. But they have a really nice texture, zero mush, which is great, and pretty mild fruit. Not much tartness at all, which I like. So some undatus are just really kind of tart, not very flavorful. Some are earthy. There's such a wide range. So 15 and 6/10. There we go. And we'll try maybe one more. Let's see what happened with this American Beauty one. Crossed with American Beauty pollen. Let's see if it's any sweeter. It's definitely a little smaller. And what's interesting about these fruit is that they get rather large. So I probably bet they might get into like 2 pounds. Ooh, air, too much air. I mean, these fruit get really large consistently, well over a pound, which is nice. That's one of the reasons why I'm interested in so even less sweet. So there you go, 12 to 15. Let's just go for a few, see, describe what the flavors are. Seeds are mild, rather small. Zero earthiness. Actually, definitely one of the better undatus that I've eaten. I like it more than K1. and more than Neitzel. Pretty too. Yeah, just all in all mild, very little tartness, nice sweetness. You could eat a lot of them. This one tastes the best. No, I have seen with really thin skin, so they'll get larger with thin skin. I think they've bricks near 20. So I'm sure that these would even taste better. I've left some on the vine to see what happens when they're approaching more like 90 days. And unless they split, I'll just leave them on there for a while. But definitely a keeper in our variety. It does really well in our climate in zone 9B. The plant material here, check it out. This is what the plant material looks like. Big, beautiful flowers. And all in all, just an aggressive, healthy grower, does really well in Southern California. And look at that, really unique looking fruits. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our dragon fruit review on this beautiful Guatemalensis called Don Burnett's Guatemalan Self-Fertile from Taiwan. Now, I tracked down its origination, and it did come from eBay, and it's weighing at 65 hundredths of a pound. But it's definitely a unique Guatemalan, and we found this in Leo Manuel's collection. So you can see here what it looked like when we found it. You can see the label. And here are the flowers and flower buds. So very typical Guatemalensis, one of my favorite varieties. I think we have almost 40 varieties now of this type, and they're all very similar, like American Beauty. But let's see how this one tastes and see if it's a little different. There's always some variances. Also, we have a cotton candy here and a beautiful dark star that maybe we'll compare if we need something to compare with. All right, so let's see how sweet this thing is. It looks really good, I can tell you that. Man, nice and juicy. The sweetest one we've ever had is Leo's eBay Self-Fertile, and that bricked, I believe, in 21.1, 21.3, something like that. But anything above 17 is great. Look at that, 18 7/10. And let's just dive in and see. Beautiful texture. Looks juicy. Nice smell. Oh, wow. That's a really good Guatemalan. Sweetness, obviously is there. It's got a unique little acidity. Definitely different than American Beauty. And different being like 90% the same. And just a really unique flavor. There's something about this one, it's a little different. Wow. I mean, when I found it out, it came back from eBay, I was less enthralled. But man, it's funny that the best Guatemalans I have in the collection are both from eBay. So that's kind of funny. I'll tell you what, this is phenomenal. So good. Less tart than American Beauty though. So a bit heavy on the sweetness compared to other Guatemalans. Let's see how this Dark Star tastes. This Dark Star I picked a little early because we're getting some really cold nights. It's still really sweet and delicious. But man, if I could only eat one of these fruit, let's see. This has a really nice texture, but not as flavorful. This texture is less firm, but man, it's good. What a winner. Really like this a lot. Both are really, really top tier fruit. Wow. I guess I should try this cotton candy as well. Bit more seedy there, as you can see. On this one of the parents is a Guatemalan similar to this type, but another parent is Connie Meyer, so this one takes a lot longer to ripen, the fruit. Heavier on the sweetness. The seeds are more noticeable in this variety. And it's sweet. It does have a nice sweetness to it. Really nice, actually. I mean, this time of year, the fall fruits are the best. All of these are winners. I mean, you would enjoy any of these, trust me. But, I gotta say, this one, it's a three-way tie. They're all phenomenal. But I do like the tartness and sweetness, acidity balanced here. This one's a bit more mild, grape flavored. This one's a bit more tropical, but I like the seeds less. And not enough tartness. It's just kind of sweet, like a sweet melon, that's about it. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for watching our fruit review on Don Burnett's 1-3 Honesty. You can see it's weighing in at 3/4 of a pound, and it's a very green-skinned fruit. But if you look really carefully, it's actually got some coloration here. And it looks very similar to its sister seedling, 1-12. In fact, there are 18 sister seedlings, around 18, and they're all pretty similar flavor-wise, at least in my experience so far. The best tasting would be Connie G 1-2 as of now, but I haven't had all of the sister seedlings. They are pretty expensive. Except for Honesty, we give this one away. We keep it free, and we hope that if you have it, that you will do the same. All right, let's get to it. Let's see how this fruit tastes. So you can see it is a magenta skin, fleshed fruit. Look at that. And here's a smaller one that I'll cut as well. And they've been Brixing in around the 17s consistently. They're lighter colored flesh than maybe, say, Connie G. Let's compare it. Actually, they're really similar. Look at that. So very similar. Let's check out 1-12 because I know that that one is a lighter color. So see, all from the same fruit, and these seedling sisters are just a little different. Now, taste-wise, they've all been pretty similar, like I said. They got a sweetness and then a little bit of acidity, but I personally wish that there was a little more acidity. But regardless, let's see how sweet this thing is before we give it an official review. All right. I'm excited for this. This is the largest fruit that the plant produced. Looks like I'm out of pipettes. I can just do this. Luckily, it's really juicy, as you can see. Definitely a really juicy variety. Wow, 21. That is the sweetest one we've had so far. Let's see if it lives up to that measure. Honestly, I kind of like when it Brix is a little lower. This thing's almost too sweet. I mean, it's very, very sweet in a good way. Wow. Juicy, sweet, kind of like a watermelon, like a candied watermelon. I really like it, but there's a lack of acidity. Let's see how Connie G does. Now, this one's definitely less sweet, but more acidity. So if you like a really sweet fruit and you don't mind much a lower level of acidity, Honesty's your jam. I mean, it's really good, really juicy, but not a complex flavor. It's kind of like an American Beauty. I mean, if you could only give me one fruit, I'd grow an American Beauty over this one personally. Just because I like the sweetness and acidity. And this one, I mean, it's really sweet. It's just kind of not as complex. But don't get me wrong, very delicious. Seeds have zero earthiness. I don't get those fake coconut flavors that I do on some of the other varieties, like Connie Meyer, one of the parents. Just all in all, this is definitely more enjoyable than Connie Meyer, in my opinion. I mean, I really just want to keep eating more. See how the smaller fruit is? Almost the same. Let's see how 1-12 is. This one must have been picked a little earlier. It just doesn't have as much flavor. It's kind of bland. But man, Honesty is a keeper. Very good. I mean, look at the score. 21% sugar off of that sample of the juice. That's pretty high. Yeah, I just wish, I mean, it's not mushy, great texture. I just really wish it had some acidity personally. Maybe I'll try to pick them a little earlier next season. But all in all, a great fruit. Here's what the flower looks like on Honesty. It's white. It's not as pretty as some of its sister seedlings. And here's the plant material. The plant material is really unique, as you can see. It has a very unique shape. Hey, this is Paul, and thanks for checking out our dragon fruit review on the variety called Santa Barbara Red. Now, this originally came from Leo Manuel, who got it from William Chow long ago, and it's weighing in at almost over 3/4 of a pound. Now, these varieties will get over a pound, sometimes 2 pounds, and they're very similar. In other words, we grow 38 varieties. Here's American Beauty, and it looks a little different, but look, same plant. Here's same American Beauty plant, but different fruit, and look at how similar they look. So there is not much variation between the Guatemalans. Here's an unknown one. Here is a one that Leo's 6S that to me is much more like a Guatemalan. I'm going to test it for self-fertility, but it is a delicious magenta fruit, very similar to these. And then here is the one now called, it was Rick's, but now it's Tropicana, which was renamed Rick's, which was renamed Rixford, which originally comes from Matt's Landscapes Rixford. And Spicy Exotics has this too, but it's the wrong variety. The true Rixford is a smaller fruit. And I believe we have it ripening on the vine. I hope to do a review on it soon. But anyways, the Santa Barbara Red, which should be called Santa Barbara Magenta, is a delicious Guatemalan, and I'm really excited to review this one today. Look at that. Now let's just compare it to this American Beauty. And to me, this American Beauty is absolutely my favorite. And you can see, look at, there's a slight difference in color, but it could also be due to when I picked it. And anyways, like I said, they're very, very similar taste-wise, and we'll make sure they are today. And generally, this American Beauty is one of my favorite, if not the favorite, personal favorite. And sadly, many people have G2 as American Beauty because some farms sold them mixed up long ago. Well, actually, they consider them to be the same. And I would say it's almost impossible to taste a difference. We grow almost 40 varieties of these, and I have a hard time tasting. I mean, I taste differences, but sometimes it could just be due to pollination possibly, weather, the amount of time on the vine. There are a myriad of factors that could affect flavor. So I hope to explore that more someday. But anyways, let's check out the sweetness. You can see very magenta, very nice seed to flesh ratio, very juicy. I can't wait. And it's a nice 18, very typical score. We'll get a little sweeter, but to me, this is just the sweet spot. And look at that. Gosh, that is a delicious fruit. And this time of year in the fall is absolutely my favorite time to grow these, or eat these fruit. These Guatemalensis varieties taste so good this time of year. Just superb. Sweet, tart, beautiful texture, super juicy, not any earthiness to the seeds. Let's see how it compares to the American Beauty. And in this case, I almost would have to say that I prefer the Santa Barbara Red today. I mean, I can't really taste the difference, to be honest with you. So I hope nobody's trying to charge a lot of money for these Guatemalans. They all taste so similar. Good thing about them, though, they are generally self-fertile, but they will typically make smaller fruit when you use their own pollen. So you still want to cross-pollinate with them. Yeah, I just can't get enough of this one. I mean, look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Whenever somebody tries a dragon fruit for the first time, I always try to give them a Guatemalan. A lot of people describe it like a kiwi, but better. Kiwi with berries, watermelon sometimes. But those are the flavors. It's just so unique, so special, so enjoyable. There you go. That is Santa Barbara's red. Hopefully I'll do a Kips red this season. Very similar as well. But all in all, just delicious fruit. Man, I can't hate on this American Beauty. This thing's really good too. But this one's just slightly better. Can't really say why. Bit more juicy, a little sweeter. Then that beautiful little tartness that we love so much. Just balanced. Balanced fruit, super sweet. There you go. This is Santa Barbara Red, which again comes from Leo Manuel's collection. Here's the flower. Here's the plant material. Very beautiful, typical Guatemalensis. I love them so much. So there you go. Give us a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully you can eat some of these beautiful, delicious Guatemalan varieties. You can't beat them. They're hard to beat. My favorite ones, oh, they're the best.